And now I'm going to do an interview with my daughter. This is Susan Burdett. Thank you so much, Susan, for agreeing to talk to us. I know you've had a lot of experience in finding faith in the fear and transmuting fear into faith. And I'm hoping you'll tell us a little about that.
When I was young, I believed that if there was any kind of a higher power, they had to hate me because of things that had happened in my life and trauma. And living in areas of such complete poverty, where it was very normal for 13 and 14-year-old girls to be pregnant and having babies, and everybody on welfare, and so many people living on the streets, that it just didn't make sense to me that there could be any kind of a God or a higher power. It wasn't until I got into recovery in my later teens and they told me that I had to believe in a higher power to be able to work the steps and grow, that I even allowed myself to kind of be open. And it was rough for me because I had so much anger and I needed something to blame. And that's where I had chosen to put blame, is if there was a God, then how could this happen? And so it took me a long time to be able to get through that anger and start to be able to believe that there could be a higher power. And I found out that a lot of that was being afraid, fear that I wouldn't be good enough to deserve to have this higher power, and that if there was a higher power, then who's to blame? You know, I couldn't take that anger and resentment and just put it at this higher power's doorstep if I believed that that I had a higher power that was good. It wasn't until I was dating a guy who was a born-again Christian. And so I started reading the Bible so that I could argue with him about why he was wrong. And I got to the place where it talked about God giving us free will, and that is unconditional, you know. And it seemed like such a simple concept, but it really changed my life, because I realized that if we had free will and there was this higher power, then the choices that we make are on us, you know. And how devastating that must be for this higher power to give us the beauty of this world and the gift of love and life, and watch us throw that away and hurt others with it. And once I came to that realization, I was able to work through some of that fear and understand that if there is a higher power, and I did mess up my life up until this point, how grateful, you know, it would be that I was making an effort to change my life. And that's when I made a deal that if there was this higher power, of course at that time I had no understanding of unconditional love and that I didn't need to put conditions on anything, but what made sense to me was that if there was this God, that I was going to be worth loving, and I was going to be worth having such a beautiful thing in my life. And so from that point on, I made the decision that if I could change the world and make it a little better and undo some of the damage that I felt I had done and some of the damage that had been done to me, then it would be worth it, you know. And so in everything I did, I tried to make life a little better, whether it's picking up trash or when I was waitressing, you know, people leaving with a smile on their face. And of course I went to school and became a nurse, and so I get to change lives there, and I had children, and I get to raise them to be good humans and send them into the world. And I know that I don't have to be worthy at this point, that God loves me no matter what. But I still think that it's a beautiful thing to celebrate that love by passing it on to others in life, I guess is the way to say it. So that's kind of my coming through fear. And I tell everybody, I help a lot of women with this now. And I tell them that, your relationship with a higher power, when you start with none, it's a building process, just like any kind of a relationship. And in the beginning, it's a hesitant hope, and I think that's the part where we're really afraid, and we kind of, are pushing through that fear to get that hope. And then the more that we see higher power working in our lives, then we start to get a little bit of trust, and then the more we see higher power working in our lives, the more we're able to turn our lives over. That's when we really come to faith. And for me at this point, it's not just faith, it's knowing, that it's going to be okay. And as long as I continue to do the right things and try to be the right person, that life's going to work out. And if I had preordained my life, it would look nothing like what it looks like now. But by allowing God to work in my life, I have so much joy. I have so much beauty, and more than I could have ever imagined, So it's always worth it.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Susan.